Hi, my name's Valerie Parente. I'm a writer and an artist, and I've been trying to make some videos where I just read my past poems and then analyze them on film, and everything is just spur of the moment. It's not scripted. So I've got my first poetry book, and I am just gonna randomly pick a poem, maybe a couple, and just read it, and then we're gonna talk about it. So let's see, by random. Okay. Why I apologize. I apologize because I am less than perfect. I apologize because I cannot read your mind. I apologize to prove I am aware of my presentation. I apologize to negate anything I do that you might dislike. I apologize because I cannot be everybody's inspiration. I apologize to beat you to the punch. I apologize to try and predict all you foresaw. I apologize because I cannot say everything at once. I apologize before you get the chance to see my flaws. I apologize to seem perfect. So this is the artwork that goes with it. It's called Chokehold. So this was written on October 16th of 2017. And if I remember correctly, I was writing this about how, and I kind of do it when I film myself too, it's about when you give a disclaimer and why do you do that? So before you can even let somebody recognize a flaw that you have, you point it out. You say, by the way, I might be all over the place because I have a hard time focusing and blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. So that's something that I know I've done in these videos, but it's apologizing for any and every little thing that you do that you don't think is perfect and the reasons behind apologizing. What's the psychology behind it? So I was trying to examine that when I was writing it. I was really trying to understand, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep putting out these disclaimers? Because I'm bringing attention to the negative, the flaws that I have by doing that. I should just be myself, and if somebody notices, they notice, and if they don't, better yet. But I would go through these periods where I was constantly telling people, like, ahead of time, like, oh, by the way, blah, 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 because I didn't want them to notice it. And the reason, which is in every line, there's a couple of reasons. One is, so I did write, I apologize to prove I'm aware of my presentation. That's kind of like a control thing. I want to let you know I have this flaw. It's not something that I overlook. I want you to know that I know it. And that's because I want to be in control of the situation. That's where I think that part comes from, that reason for apologizing, the aware of your presentation. So another one, I apologize to negate anything I do that you might dislike. Again, trying to be well liked and have, I guess growing up, we could talk about this. I guess growing up, I took popularity way too seriously, and it consumed my entire mood. If someone popular in middle school talked to me, then it made my whole damn day. And I took that and I valued myself more because of it, which is so wrong because you can't depend on other people to dictate your value. You're going to end up pretty unhappy when you realize that that doesn't mean anything, and pretty empty inside when you've been building self-esteem from something that is hollow and not real. And then nobody else remembers but you. This popular person doesn't remember talking to you. It doesn't freaking matter, but it's like the whole world to you. So growing up, I was very obsessed with popularity and attention in general, which I guess is the narcissistic side of me, just constantly wanting people to notice me and see me for who I am. That's where I think I apologize to negate anything I do that you might dislike. I just want to be well liked. I want the attention. I want everybody to be like, oh, that girl, she is so smart. She's so pretty. She blah, blah, blah. And I feel like there's a better, at least when I wrote this, I was feeling like there's a better chance that I'm going to be well liked if I can kind of undermine those bad things about me just by referencing it. If I point it out, then it really does undermine and kind of take away the power of that negative side of me that you're going to see. by pointing it out. And then maybe let's just read a few more. I'm not going to talk about all of it, but I apologize to predict all you foresaw. I apologize because I cannot say everything at once. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. I just want to be, I know like a big thing with my writing is I just want to cover everything that is going on inside this brain, and you can't, there's no way to do all of that because this brain is very jumbled up. There's no way to adequately do that or neatly do that all at once. And my apology of this thing, this bad side of me pointing it out and saying sorry for it, I feel like it kind of makes people overlook the negative of the fact that maybe I didn't say exactly what you wanted me to say. Maybe I didn't cover exactly what I meant, but I was able to get rid of that. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I apologize because I cannot say everything at once. It's basically just that I want to be able to say everything at once, and by apologizing about it, I'm kind of saying, like, by the way, I know how to do this, but I'm not going to, and I'm aware that I'm not going to because of whatever reason, because of my mental state, whatever. I apologize before you get a chance to see any of my flaws. That's really what it comes down to. I want to be the first one to point it out, and I want to be the one to have control over the situation. So when somebody else comes up and calls me, you know, like, oh, your hair is messy, blah, 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 I feel a lot better saying it first because you can't, you can't have any power over me. I have power of the situation by saying it first. So that's one poem. Getting into it. Ooh, I love this one. Let me go back. Tiara by Valerie Parente. Many girls live inside my head, waiting for her turn to wear the tiara, where she thrives in a masterpiece, mastering every piece of emotion, emoting through articulation, articulating the situation. I promise these girls inside my head that her patience will groom her well, for she will learn through all experiences, experiencing what it is to be human, humanizing the enemies she once misunderstood, understanding the meaning of good. Each girl inside my head will become the best version of herself, honing the darkness that made her wise, a product of all her joy and all her pain, as she wears her tiara with pride. I remember exactly what this is about, and this is when I was writing more fiction stories. So I have some stories that I've written that I didn't publish because they're just not that good, or they're not up to par with my standards. So I've written a lot of stories with different female main characters, some male main characters, but this was more about the females that live inside my head, these daydreamed versions of me, because almost every person that I write about, I imagine, I do it from first person, so I do imagine it's me. And maybe they don't like look like me or they don't act like me, but I have to think egotistically of this is me. I'm going through these motions. This is the daydream that is about me going through different situations. So the tiara is basically representative of, I put this tiara on different girls, different daydreams, different idealized versions of myself with different storylines. So the past stories that I used to write and that are still drafts in my computer and in scraps of paper are all different girls that got a chance to wear the crown. You know, the crown is basically my writing, my focus, my energy going into making a story. And different girls that live inside my head each develop and grow and have different experiences through different storylines, but they always, my motto, finding beauty in darkness, they always learn how to hone the darkness in whatever the given situation is. And that's very literally what Tiara is about. I promise these girls inside my head that her patience will groom her well, for she will learn through all experiences, experiencing what it is to be human, humanizing the enemies she once misunderstood, and understanding the meaning of good. There's really just a whole life inside the daydreams that you have. And when I daydream, a whole entire world unravels and different experiences present themselves. I just think of random experiences, or I see something that triggers a daydream and whatever. And these girls that, the idealized version of me that I'm imagining things through, that I'm having make-believe dialogues through, these girls are understanding the meaning of life in the weirdest way, because It's not literally something I'm experiencing in the world. I'm not really this princess warrior running around defeating monsters. And I'm writing about that. And I'm learning things about the world through the daydreams that I've made up. So it's really weird, and it's something that I've thought about a lot, how you can learn lessons about life in general from your own imagination. So it's so weird to think that growth and learning comes from an outside source. Somebody has to teach it to you. You can do that to yourself with your imagination and learning who you are. So the girls inside my head, they do learn life lessons, and there's always a lesson in everything that I write. There's always a discovery. There's always an enemy, an antagonist that's going to be understood in a new way that I did all by myself in my own head. Nobody told me this is the formula, this is how you have to write, and these are the things that have to be the end result lessons and themes. No one's telling me that. I'm doing that on my own. And that actually goes into a poem that I think I'm going to find next called Creator, where you really do create your reality and your mental state and everything that you learn in this life. So let's go to Creator now that I'm thinking about that. Like I said, the artist, the muse is all tied together. The artist is her own muse, which is really another way that Tiara underlines that idea and that title. It really does it justice. Creator. Here is the picture. Watercolor with lined paper with some of the words that I've created. Creator. Why is it so difficult to understand that you are part of your creator? Just as your art embodies a piece of you, and a child has originated from the parents, one does not spawn into existence without an energy to spawn from. This really gets spiritual, and this is my entire philosophy on life and my spiritual belief. I'm not religious, but I am spiritual. I do believe in God, and that's really, this is basically what I think God is. And God is the creator, in my opinion. I know some people think, like, a lot of like atheists or agnostic people are like, there's no such, they're very scientific, and they're like, there's no way some dude is in the clouds orchestrating all of this. I agree. We, in many religions and in society, personify the idea of God. And I do not do that in my own head. Like when you're young, you do, because that's what you're taught. You're taught that God's this dude. I don't personify God. I truly just think of whatever created the universe. I think of the universe as God. I think of where this all came from. And the very fact that I exist, you know you exist, I know I exist. The very fact that anything exists means that something created it. So, creator, where that line says, one does not spawn into existence without an energy to spawn from. That's why I think there is design and something behind all of this, because how does everything come from nothing? I just refuse to believe that. And this goes into what I was talking about in Tiara as a writer. Creator was a commentary on God in some way, but I know when I wrote it, I was thinking of how it feels to be an author. And creator is also, it parallels the ultimate creator God and the author, the daydreamer, the person who imagines something, imagines a story, takes in these lessons from the real world. That's what the creator is. It's both those things. It's you and it's me. It's those things not at once, but it's also, we're all in this universe together. So in a sense, it is kind of all at once. But creator, why is it so difficult to understand? This was me talking to, I think the reason why I thought of this at all, and it starts out with why is it so difficult for you to understand? Why is it so difficult to understand? Was me thinking of some of my atheist friends and me trying to talk to them about, like, why don't you get this? Like, something has to have created us. You know you exist. Existence can't just happen. And maybe some science can prove that that's otherwise, but this is just like what I truly think as an artist. And from seeing things come out of nothing in my brain, seeing stories come alive, that's what I really believe and what has proven to be true in my life. My when this was written, 2017, in my 23 years of living, 23 years of, or 22 years of living. So I was like, why don't you understand, thinking of some of my friends, and then that you are part of your creator. That's in the sense that God is the universe, and the universe is something that you are part of. The universe is something that you are connected with. Everything comes from that one thing. And I think, is that called the singularity? I'm not positive about the scientific like theory and stuff, but that's what that is. Just like, you are part of your creator as a human being. You're part of the universe, and the universe is the creator. And then, just as your art embodies a piece of you, yep, and a child has originated from the parents, one does not spawn, blah, 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 blah. But it is like being born. You know, nothing can be born from nothing. Something can't be born from nothing. And I know I just said that, but there's just like the analogy of parent figures who create you, and then there's also the art that is created. It all comes from something mental, I think. So creator, kind of, I just thought of that one after talking about Tiara, because it was a couple of things, but more than anything else, it was a commentary on what it's like to create art, and how that is like a small scale version, your own little God version of the bigger universe. I'm going to read one more, random. Oh, I love this one. This was written as a rap. So sometimes when I write rhymes, I think of it more as a rap. I don't think I have the vocal, I don't think I have like pretty vocals, so I don't actually rap, but I wish I liked my voice enough to do that, because a lot of my writing is very lyrical, and a lot of the times when I write a poem, I'm thinking of it more as a rap in my head than anything. I'm thinking of someone spitting rhymes in that sense, with like this music in the background. So Conscience of Nonsense. Here's the artwork. Self-portrait. The branches is a major motif and symbol throughout my book here, and throughout my writing in general. So not just this book, but I've branched out. I've used those branches to represent a lot of things, and it's just a symbol that I like to use. We can talk about that another time. Conscience of nonsense. I have a conscience full of nonsense and sensory receptors that can't censor the pressure. It's this feeling on my hands that I can't understand, like an invisible film leaving marks on my skin. Carefully constructed obstructions created to function against the notion of change that threatens my name. I cannot resist all these consistencies that are based on a promise of personal solace. Yes, I know my views are deeply skewed, but I refuse to be blind to the insights that are mine. Still, I question the spawn of my obsessions. Nature versus nurture, is it inborn or is it learned? Even if I knew the cause, it couldn't erase the scars. So I turn a biochemical disposition into my ambition and manipulate the disease that manipulates me. Through a phraseology that captures all of me, branding myself before everyone else, by arranging language to my advantage and defining my mind with words so sublime, the infusion of nonsense with a written form of conscience, while my heart aches from the pain I embrace, nonetheless I am blessed to find beauty in darkness. Whew. Lots of rhymes, lots of syllables. So I'm not going to go into all of it. I don't want to dissect everything, because I want to leave some things to your imagination when you read these on your own. But to explain the reasoning, I guess I'll just like explain the reasoning behind it. Conscience of nonsense is about having OCD and having these irrational thoughts that don't make any sense and have no base in reality, including something I have that is a very acute germ fear, which I have a hard time explaining to people. I've not met someone else who has it the way that I've had it, because a lot of people think when I say I'm scared of germs that I'm saying I'm scared of getting sick. That's not what it is. It has nothing to do with that. I still don't fully know what it is, but I know that the fear is more about feeling touch, which is also part of the meaning of my book, In Touch, why the title is In Touch, because it's about this phenomena that I've experienced where I feel germs on me, I feel touch on me. Someone can touch my shoulder, my bare shoulder, and then when they walk away, even after the sensory receptors have felt someone else's skin on me, I still feel a stain on me. I feel what I call germs. I know you can't rationally feel germs, but in my head it's I feel the germs, I feel a stain, I feel this invisible film. And that's what this was about. It was about my germ fear. So there are, I know I said, and sensory receptors that can't censor the pressure. I love that line because the sensory receptor is what feels touch on my skin. It doesn't know how to censor that, what touch is, which is just pressure. It doesn't know how to tune it out. Censorship doesn't know how to make it go away. Let's just pick a few more lines. An invisible film leaving marks on my skin. That's what it feels like, a stain. It's not something you can see, hear, taste, but I know it's on me. And then cannot resist all these consistencies that are based on a promise of personal solace. That's the OCD mindset. So with OCD, there's this like wheel, and it's thought, intrusive thought, which is obsession, and then you have to carry out the compulsion, and then when you carry out the compulsion, anxiety goes away, and then you get a new obsession. So people want this obsession thing to go away by performing a certain act, which sometimes has a very obvious tie to the initial obsession. Sometimes it's very far-fetched and you don't really understand, why does she have to do this to ward off this? So that the promise of personal solace is the compulsion, is that thing in your head that's saying, if you do this, you will be safe, you don't have to worry anymore, and you can move on. So there's always that feeling like you're not safe with OCD, and you do feel safe once you perform the compulsion. So that's what that is. Still, I question the spawn of my obsessions. Nature versus nurture. Is it inborn or is it learned? That's just a common thing that everyone talks about. If you take any psychology class, there's always that question with mental illness of, did you learn it? You know, you might notice that you have an eating disorder once you're 12. And there's the question of, well, were you born with that biochemical predisposition that made you prone to having a very difficult relationship with food and equating food to worth and blah, 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 everything that an eating disorder is? Were you born with that because of the chemistry in your brain? Or did you learn it somewhere? Did you meet someone who had been throwing up in the bathroom and they got in your head and told you how it makes these things go away, the anxiety go away? You started doing it, blah, 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 you learned it. So there's always that question with mental illness. I question it with OCD of, is it inborn or is it learned? I don't know. I don't know if I was born with it. I've had it in many ways ever since I can remember, but it wasn't, there wasn't a word for it until I was older. So there is this question in my head, because I have been obsessive ever since I was born, if it's just the way I am, or if somewhere along the line when it got really bad in 7th grade, when I actually developed the acute fear of germs, if there was a reason for it to happen at that time that wasn't just brain chemistry, but an actual event that catalyzed it. So I don't know. I'll never know. And I mean, maybe science will be able to, determine what causes mental illness someday, but I don't think while I'm alive we're going to be able to do that. So I don't think I'll ever know, and I don't think any of us will ever know in this lifetime. But that's what that is about, where I don't want to, I cannot resist all these consistencies that are based on a promise of personal solace. So that, or I'm sorry, I read the wrong part. Nature versus nurture. Is it inborn or is it learned? That's what that's about. Just not knowing the origin. I'll just analyze a few more things because I don't want to get too into it. The ending, while my heart aches from the pain I embrace from having this disorder, nonetheless, I am blessed to find beauty in darkness. That's my motto, finding beauty in darkness. So I think at the end of the day, when you have a mental disorder and you really work on it and try to understand it and try to analyze it, I think you're going to learn a lot of things about the nature of the world and about yourself and about mind in general. And that's something that I wouldn't trade for anything. So even though I do have these problems, I would never want to be free of them looking back, because they've taught me a lot. And I've been able to find beauty in these darkness. And the beauty in this darkness that I've been able to find is creating artwork and poetry and books. So it's kind of, what's that word I'm looking for? It's like a meta. It's kind of meta, a lot of my writing. And basically this whole book is meta, The Artist, the Muse, because we're talking about writing and we're talking about creativity, and all of it that we're talking about, we're also putting in the literal book. So this whole thing is very meta. It's very aware of itself. It's aware that the artist is her own muse in these writings, and the disorder in this brain that is put onto paper is all stuff that ties together with the theme of finding beauty in darkness, because you are, just by the act of writing this, oh, is my thing gonna stop? My thing's gonna stop soon. Just by the act of writing this, you are creating something beautiful out of your pain and darkness. So I'm gonna stop this because I think my phone is getting full of space and I need to remove some stuff. Thank you for listening to that, and we'll do more.